The Danish royal palace has been unusually quiet for months, almost eerily so, and royal watchers around the world have been holding their breath, wondering when King Frederik X would finally speak directly to his people again. Well, that moment has arrived, and it came completely out of nowhere, catching everyone from seasoned royal correspondents to casual monarchy enthusiasts completely off guard. What happened next would send shockwaves through the royal establishment and reveal something profound about Denmark's newest monarch that nobody could have predicted. King Frederik X has always been different from other European royals, and if you've been following the Danish monarchy even casually, you'll know that this king takes his approach to privacy and family time more seriously than perhaps any other reigning monarch in Europe today. Unlike the British royals who seem to live their lives under constant media scrutiny, or the Swedish royal family with their carefully orchestrated public appearances, Frederik has deliberately chosen a path of almost radical privacy, especially when it comes to his personal life and his children's upbringing. For months, the king had maintained what royal experts were calling an unprecedented level of silence from a sitting European monarch. No personal social media posts, no unexpected public statements, no informal appearances that weren't strictly part of his official duties. This wasn't unusual behavior for Frederik, mind you, but the extended nature of this particular quiet period had royal watchers genuinely puzzled and increasingly concerned about what might be happening behind the closed doors of Amalienborg Palace. The Danish people, known for their respect of royal privacy, weren't exactly demanding answers, but there was definitely a growing curiosity about their relatively new king's unusual absence from any form of personal communication. Frederik had ascended to the throne following his mother Queen Margrethe II's surprising abdication, and while he had fulfilled all his ceremonial duties with the dignity and professionalism expected of a Danish monarch, there had been virtually no glimpse into the man behind the crown. Then, without any warning, without any advance notice to the royal press corps, without even a hint from palace officials that something was coming, King Frederik X broke his silence in the most unexpected way possible. The personal message that emerged wasn't delivered through official channels, wasn't announced by the Royal Communications Office, and wasn't part of any scheduled royal engagement. Instead, it came in a form that was so genuinely personal and spontaneous that it caught everyone completely unprepared. What makes this story even more fascinating is that, looking back, all the signs were there. Royal experts who have been analyzing Frederik's behavior patterns since his accession are now saying they should have seen this coming. The clues were hiding in plain sight, woven into his approach to kingship, his relationship with his family, and his fundamental philosophy about what it means to be a modern monarch in the 21st century. To understand why this message was so significant and why it represents such a departure from traditional royal communication, you need to understand something crucial about King Frederik X's approach to his role. Unlike many of his European counterparts who have embraced social media as a way to connect directly with their subjects, Frederik has deliberately chosen to maintain what some critics have called an almost archaic level of formality and distance. His official communications have always been channeled through proper palace protocols, carefully crafted by communications professionals, and delivered through traditional royal channels. This isn't because Frederik is out of touch with modern communication methods. On the contrary, those who know him personally describe him as surprisingly tech-savvy and deeply aware of how social media and digital platforms work. His choice to avoid personal digital engagement isn't rooted in ignorance or technological incompetence, but rather in a deeply held belief about the dignity of the monarchy and the importance of maintaining certain boundaries between the public role of a king and the private life of a human being. The personal message that broke this pattern wasn't a formal statement read by palace officials or a carefully scripted video message recorded in one of the grand rooms of Amalienborg. Instead, it was something far more intimate and revealing, something that showed a side of King Frederik that the public rarely, if ever, gets to see. The content of this message would reveal not just what the king was thinking, but what he values most deeply as both a monarch and as a father. What Frederik chose to share with the world speaks volumes about his priorities and his vision for his reign. The message centered entirely around family time and the delicate balance between royal duties and personal relationships. This wasn't a political statement, wasn't about policy or international relations, and wasn't even about traditional royal concerns like charitable patronages or state ceremonies. Instead, it was a deeply personal reflection on something that clearly matters more to him than perhaps any other aspect of his life. The timing of this message is particularly significant when you consider what's been happening in other royal families around the world. The British royal family has been dealing with unprecedented public scrutiny and internal conflicts that have played out in the global media. The Spanish monarchy has faced its own challenges with transparency and public accountability. Even the traditionally stable Scandinavian monarchies have had to navigate changing public expectations about royal relevance and accessibility. Against this backdrop, King Frederik's approach represents something entirely different, something that royal experts are calling either refreshingly authentic or dangerously out of touch, depending on their perspective. His decision to maintain such strict boundaries around his family life, even to the point of virtual silence on personal matters, reflects a philosophy about monarchy that prioritizes the long-term stability and dignity of the institution over short-term public relations benefits. The content of Frederik's unexpected personal message revealed just how seriously he takes his role as a father. Those who have had the privilege of observing the royal family in private settings have always noted that Frederik seems to transform completely when he's with his children. The formal, somewhat reserved demeanor that characterizes his public appearances gives way to something much more relaxed and genuinely playful. His children clearly adore him, and he seems to find a kind of peace and authenticity in their presence that he rarely displays in his official capacity. This dedication to family time isn't just about personal preference or emotional fulfillment, though those factors are certainly important. Frederik understands something that many public figures struggle with, that the quality of his private relationships directly impacts his effectiveness as a leader. A king who is grounded in strong family bonds, who takes time to be fully present with his children, who prioritizes the health and stability of his most important personal relationships, is ultimately better equipped to serve his people with wisdom and emotional intelligence. The specific circumstances that prompted Frederik to break his silence are particularly telling. Royal sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, suggest that the king had been wrestling with a decision about how to balance an upcoming series of demanding royal engagements with a family commitment that he considered absolutely non-negotiable. Rather than simply making the decision behind closed doors and letting his communications team handle any public relations implications, Frederik chose to address the matter directly and personally. This represents a significant departure from traditional royal protocol, where personal scheduling conflicts are typically handled quietly by palace staff without any public acknowledgement that such conflicts even exist. The fact that Frederik chose to break his silence specifically to address this kind of personal priority speaks volumes about his values and his vision for how a modern monarch should relate to his people. The message itself was crafted with remarkable care and thoughtfulness. Frederik didn't simply announce his decision and move on. Instead, he took the time to explain his reasoning, to share something of his philosophy about the importance of family bonds, and to trust his people with a glimpse into the very human struggles that even kings must navigate. This level of transparency and vulnerability is virtually unprecedented from a sitting Danish monarch. What makes this even more remarkable is that Frederik didn't have to say anything at all. Royal protocol would have fully supported him in simply making whatever scheduling adjustments were necessary without any public explanation. The fact that he chose to break his silence, to share something personal and meaningful with his people, suggests a level of respect for public intelligence and a commitment to authentic communication that sets him apart from many of his royal contemporaries. The reaction to Frederik's personal message has been fascinating to observe. Traditional royal watchers, accustomed to the carefully managed communications of most European monarchies, initially seemed unsure how to interpret this unexpected burst of personal authenticity. Some praised the king for his honesty and his clear commitment to family values. Others worried that such personal revelations might set a precedent that could eventually undermine the dignity and mystery that have traditionally surrounded the monarchy. The Danish public's response, however, has been overwhelmingly positive. Poll numbers released shortly after the king's message showed a significant spike in royal approval ratings, with many Danes expressing appreciation for their monarch's willingness to share something genuine and personal. Comments from ordinary citizens consistently praised Frederik for prioritizing family relationships and for being honest about the challenges of balancing public duties with private commitments. International royal experts have been divided in their assessment of Frederik's approach. Some see it as a masterclass in modern monarchy, demonstrating how a royal can maintain dignity and authority while still connecting with people on a genuinely human level. Others worry that such personal revelations might create unrealistic expectations for transparency that could eventually prove problematic for the institution of monarchy itself. What's particularly interesting about the international reaction is how it reflects different cultural attitudes toward privacy and public life. British royal watchers, accustomed to intense media scrutiny of their own royal family, seemed initially puzzled by what they perceived as Frederik's excessive concern for privacy, only to be surprised by his sudden openness. Continental European observers, more familiar with the traditionally discreet approach of Scandinavian monarchies, were impressed by the king's willingness to trust his people with personal insights. The broader implications of Frederik's message extend far beyond the immediate circumstances that prompted it. Royal historians are already noting that this moment represents a significant shift in how the Danish monarchy communicates with the public. The precedent of a king choosing to break an extended silence specifically to address personal priorities could influence how future royal communications are handled. More importantly, Frederik's message reveals something profound about his understanding of modern leadership. In an era when many public figures struggle to maintain authenticity while managing public expectations, Frederik has found a way to be genuinely personal without being inappropriately intimate, to share meaningful insights about his values without compromising his dignity or effectiveness as a leader. The specific details of what prompted Frederik's message are particularly revealing. According to palace sources, the king had been invited to participate in several high-profile international engagements that would have significantly enhanced Denmark's diplomatic profile and potentially advanced several important policy initiatives. These weren't frivolous social events or routine ceremonial obligations, but genuinely important opportunities that most monarchs would have found difficult to refuse. However, these engagements would have conflicted with a series of personal commitments that Frederik had made to his children. Not major life events like graduations or birthdays, but smaller, quieter moments that might seem insignificant to outside observers but clearly held enormous importance for the king. His decision to prioritize these family commitments over prestigious royal duties says something profound about his understanding of what really matters in life. The way Frederik explained his decision in his personal message was particularly thoughtful. He didn't simply announce his choice and expect people to accept it without question. Instead, he took the time to articulate why these family moments were so important to him, how they connected to his larger vision of effective leadership, and why he believed that being fully present for his children ultimately made him a better king for all Danes. This level of explanation and transparency represents a significant evolution in royal communication. Traditionally, monarchs have been expected to make decisions based on duty and protocol, with personal preferences being largely irrelevant to public discussion. Frederik's willingness to explain how personal values inform his royal decisions suggests a more integrated approach to leadership, one where the private person and the public role support and strengthen each other rather than existing in separate, potentially conflicting spheres. The philosophical implications of Frederik's approach are particularly fascinating for students of modern monarchy. His message suggests a vision of royal leadership that prioritizes long-term relationship building over short-term public relations gains, that values authentic human connections over carefully managed public appearances, and that recognizes the fundamental importance of family stability for effective leadership. This approach stands in marked contrast to the strategies employed by many other public figures, who often seem to treat family relationships as either public relations opportunities or potential liabilities to be carefully managed. Frederik's commitment to protecting his family time, even when it means turning down prestigious opportunities, suggests a level of personal integrity and clear priorities that many leaders struggle to maintain. The technical aspects of how Frederik delivered his message are also worth examining. Rather than using traditional royal communication channels, he chose a method that felt more personal and immediate. This wasn't a formal statement released through palace press offices or a carefully staged media event. Instead, it was something that felt genuine and spontaneous, as if the king had simply decided to share something important with people he trusted. This choice of communication method reinforces the authenticity of the message itself. Frederik could easily have had his communications team craft a more traditional statement that conveyed the same basic information without revealing anything personal about his values or decision-making process. The fact that he chose a more direct, personal approach suggests that he genuinely wanted to share something meaningful with his people, not just manage a potential public relations issue. The long-term implications of Frederik's approach to royal communication are still being debated by experts. Some argue that his willingness to share personal insights and priorities could create a new model for how modern monarchs relate to their people, one that balances traditional dignity with contemporary expectations for authenticity and transparency. Others worry that such openness, while admirable, might eventually create unrealistic expectations that could prove difficult for future monarchs to meet. What seems clear is that Frederik's message has resonated with people far beyond Denmark's borders. Royal watchers around the world have taken note of his approach, and many are wondering whether other monarchs might begin to adopt similar strategies for connecting with their people. The positive public response to Frederik's honesty and his clear commitment to family values suggests that there might be a real appetite for this kind of authentic royal communication. The message also reveals something important about Frederik's understanding of his role as a father within the context of modern royal life. Unlike previous generations of royals, who often seemed to view parenting as something to be handled primarily by staff and tutors, Frederik clearly sees active, engaged fatherhood as a core part of his identity and his effectiveness as a leader. This approach reflects broader cultural shifts in expectations around fatherhood and work-life balance. Even kings, it seems, are expected to be present and engaged parents, not distant figures who see their children primarily at formal occasions. Frederik's willingness to prioritize family time, even when it conflicts with royal duties, suggests that he takes these evolved expectations seriously and sees them as compatible with, rather than threatening to, effective royal leadership. The specific language Frederik used in his message has been analyzed extensively by communication experts and royal historians. His tone was notably warm and personal, without being overly intimate or inappropriately casual. He managed to convey genuine emotion and personal commitment while maintaining the dignity and authority expected of a monarch. This kind of communication balancing act requires considerable skill and suggests that Frederik has given serious thought to how he wants to connect with his people. Perhaps most importantly, Frederik's message demonstrates a level of trust in public intelligence and maturity that many political leaders seem reluctant to embrace. Rather than assuming that people wouldn't understand or appreciate his priorities, he trusted his citizens with genuine insights into his values and decision-making process. This kind of respect for public intelligence often generates reciprocal respect and understanding, which might explain the overwhelmingly positive response to his message. The timing of Frederik's decision to break his silence is also significant from a broader political and cultural perspective. In an era when many people feel disconnected from their leaders and skeptical of political authenticity, Frederik's willingness to share something genuine and personal represents a different kind of leadership approach. His message suggests that effective leadership might actually require this kind of authenticity and integration between personal values and public responsibilities. Looking ahead, royal experts are curious to see whether Frederik's communication approach will influence other aspects of his reign. Will he continue to share personal insights when he believes they're relevant to his royal duties? Will he maintain his strong boundaries around family privacy while occasionally offering glimpses into his values and priorities? How will this communication style evolve as his children grow older and as his reign progresses? The international media response to Frederik's message has been particularly interesting to observe. Many outlets initially seemed uncertain how to frame the story, as it doesn't fit neatly into traditional categories of royal news. It's not a scandal, not a formal announcement, and not a political statement. Instead, it's something more subtle and complex, a glimpse into how a modern monarch thinks about the relationship between personal values and public responsibilities. The broader cultural conversation sparked by Frederik's message has touched on themes that extend far beyond royal watching. Many commentators have used his example to discuss broader questions about work-life balance, the importance of family relationships, and the challenges of maintaining authenticity in public roles. These conversations suggest that Frederik's decision to share his priorities has resonated with people who face similar, if less public, challenges in their own lives. Social media reaction to the king's message has been overwhelmingly supportive, with many users expressing appreciation for his honesty and his commitment to family values. Comments from parents, in particular, have praised Frederik for modeling the kind of engaged fatherhood that many families value but that public figures rarely prioritize so clearly. This response suggests that there might be real public appetite for leaders who are willing to be transparent about their personal values and priorities. The message has also generated interesting discussions about the evolution of monarchy in the modern world. Royal historians note that Frederik's approach represents a significant departure from traditional royal communication strategies, which typically emphasized duty and protocol over personal values and relationships. His willingness to prioritize family time and to explain that prioritization publicly suggests a more integrated approach to royal leadership. Critics of Frederik's approach, while relatively few, have raised concerns about potential precedents and future expectations. Some worry that his openness about personal priorities might eventually create pressure for inappropriate levels of transparency about royal family life. Others question whether such personal considerations should influence royal scheduling and duties. These criticisms, however, have been significantly outnumbered by positive responses praising the king's authenticity and clear values. The long-term impact of Frederik's message on the Danish monarchy remains to be seen, but early indicators suggest that his approach has strengthened rather than weakened public support for the royal institution. His willingness to be genuine and transparent about his priorities seems to have increased public trust and appreciation rather than undermining royal dignity or authority. As observers continue to analyze the implications of King Frederik X's unexpected personal message, one thing becomes increasingly clear: this moment represents more than just a communication choice by an individual monarch. It reflects evolving expectations about leadership, authenticity, and the integration of personal values with public responsibilities. Whether other leaders, royal or otherwise, will follow Frederik's example remains to be seen, but his willingness to break his silence specifically to address personal priorities has certainly opened up new possibilities for how public figures might connect with the people they serve. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay updated on the latest royal news and surprising developments from monarchies around the world. Like this video if King Frederik's approach to balancing royal duties with family priorities resonates with you, and share it with anyone who might be interested in this fascinating evolution of modern royal communication. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think about King Frederik's decision to prioritize family time over prestigious royal engagements, and whether you believe this kind of transparency strengthens or weakens the modern monarchy.